A little trivia thing about Sue. She did not drive until 35, were you?
32.
32, okay. And you see Sue walking all over town, and she loved working at the Inlet School because she could walk to school, and both of her kids were there as well, Russ and Michael. One of her fond memories, and when I was talking to the Manili ladies yesterday, they remembered sliding down Route 28 on sleds with Grandma Gracie, which was her Grandma Gracie Harwood, correct, Sue?
Yes.
Yep. And so she was evidently a fearless soul who would just get on that little sled. It wasn't a sled. So I wanted to, because I'm very late at bringing in the Manilis, and they're going to be part of the next, if you invite me back next summer, we're going to keep up with this, because Brenda especially, I mean, her eyes are just lit up about snow. She loved snow, and everything they did was snow. And how they would go to a bar like Scott's and ask for a beer tray. And get a beer tray and go sliding down the hill. Or they do it over at Fern Park. I mean, there were dangerous things, and some of them ended up on the lake, I'm sure, where the lake was frozen, usually. Gosh, they had a lot of fun, right? They just had really a lot of fun. And so Sue was remembering that. She said it was just central to her childhood. Sue is another person. Actually, Sue's probably the person that is here the most constant. Adele, I'm taking this away from you. Sue was actually born here. I think the only person who, I'm sorry, Joanne, and the Manilis are born here, Brenda and Joanne. And Sue was born here and went to school and came back. And her dad and mom were here, of course, so that was nice. And she's still here. Dave is like nodding his head, and she loves looking out her front window and the beautiful scenery. And I think she stays for the winter. She's not a snowbird, so okay. So, Sue gave me a number of other nice pictures, but this is what I have. So this is Jackie Birth, and Jackie sent me this picture. And Jackie, again, is probably somebody most of you probably don't remember, but she graduated with Margie and Brenda, and just the three of you that are here, right, part of the Inlet girls. And this is such a lovely story, and I hope Brenda doesn't mind me telling it. When Brenda was engaged to, I know it's Thibodeau, what's his first name? Bernie Thibodeau. He had the bad misfortune of breaking his back before the wedding. And they were going to get married in a church, but they got married in a manse instead, and Jackie Birth stood up for her. So there's so many lovely connections. Margie Hodel was in Jackie's wedding when she got married at the Albador. So these girls, I hope no one is offended I keep calling them girls. They were 18 years old. They were girls, and they went to Old Forge, and they were in the cheerleaders, and they ran the yearbook. They were in the chorus, and this is the picture that Jackie sent me. You know, actually, if I looked like that, I would send everybody my picture because she's really darling. Jackie was a unique teenager. And her quote, I'm going to start with her quote. I had a perfect childhood in Inlet. Jackie was born, I think it's Utica. Yeah, she's born in Utica. Hard knocks for her parents. It was a very, I say that over and over, but it was true. Life was tough. Where are you going to get work? Well, you're going to get work in Inlet. So they came to Inlet, and they bought, she said it was a shell of a house. Now, right now, on Route, the 7th Lake Route, what's that called? 7th Lake Road. If you go down about almost to where the Six Lake Road tees to it. There's no, am I wrong?
No, there are two different roads.
Oh, well, the beautiful white house on the right is, I think, number 28, maybe halfway down. What is it, Brenda?
I'm not sure, but it's on the Six Lake Road.
It's on the Six Lake.
On the right-hand side.
It's really was a shell of a house. That's the way Jackie described it. It's now a beautiful house that Jackie and her husband and her children summered at for years and years, and they finally had to give it up. Jackie lost her mother when she was 15. Jackie was the only child. Her mother had ovarian cancer. She died in 6 months. She was diagnosed when Jackie was a sophomore in high school, and she died when Jackie was a junior in high school. Jackie, and you may remember her father, Earl Birth, was an electrician, a handyman. He also served on one of the town councils for quite a long time. A real pillar of the community. Jackie was his wife. She ran the house with him. And you're nodding, Margie, because you were good friends with her.
Yep.
This is amazing. And the thing that was cool about Jackie that Margie tells me is that Jackie had access to a car, her dad's car. And I'm going to quote Brenda again, because Brenda said, the one thing you wanted to do when you were in Inlet and you were a teenager, you wanted to get out. You wanted to get to Old Forge where you could have ice cream and soda. Well, Jackie would be driving the car to Old Forge with Margie and Brenda in the car. I mean, not very wild. And then Brenda said, but when you leave Inlet, the one thing you want to do is get back to Inlet. And I really love that. And you're going to be in a lot more of my next paper, both of them and you ladies. Back to Jackie for a minute. So she said, I had a perfect childhood, and I knew her background. And I was waiting for her to say, it was so sad. Life was so awful. But I guess she was pretty up. She was one of the women, like a lot of you here, that worked at Reggie's one of them, every single resort there was. And there was lots of resorts. You were the hostess, you were the waitress, you, one of the women in the sitting right here, I think was the bun lady. No. Sue Beck, what were you?
Roll girl.
The roll. Those people used to put over their, I think it's the ones that used to sell cigarettes. Yeah, and they had like, she was the roll girl, which she wanted to be instead of being a waitress, because she was too nervous to be a waitress and she wanted to be the roll girl. She was at Rocky Point because a lot of her relatives were at Rocky Point. Reggie was, as I said, I'm going to come back to her in a minute, at a lot of different resorts. And Jackie said they just worked so hard. Nobody was not working, which I guess was pretty good because you all knew that that's what you were doing. You know, no one was at the pool.
Can I make a comment? Jackie and Earl came to Inlet in 1953 with Aileen.
That was the mother, right.
The mother was actually Aileen Drake, and her sister was Agatha Drake, who was married to Guy Delmars, who ran the Tamrock Inn and was related to Archie over at Rocky Point Inn.
Oh my gosh.
So there's that connection.
Yeah.
And the house, by the way, my parents called them about that house when Earl was working at Scananoa Rayon. He was a supervisor in Utica, had 300 employees underneath him. And he gave that up to come to Inlet because my mom and dad, of course, he visited us many times because my mom is his sister. And he came up here, and at first he worked for the Inlet Supply Company, and then he went on his own to form Birth Sales and Service. But I want you to realize he paid $700 for that house. It just sold. $365 it just sold. And if I can make one other connection, Ruth Murdoch was Ruth Kerber. Ruth Kerber was the niece of Mary Kerber, who was married to George Birth, who was Earl's uncle and my mother's uncle. So there's two connections there with the Births, with the Delmarshes as well as with the Births.
And you should be doing the
back.
paper next summer. You do the paper next summer and I'll sit in the audience.
You know, there's so many interesting connections.
It's fascinating. It really is wonderful. And as I said before, that Margie was in Jackie's wedding and they got married at the Albador.
Can I just say something? David
Grimno's gonna be doing their August 21st, talk about the Grimno family.
Okay,
So
very
we're
good.
working on
There you
that
go,
now.
right, and then you get all the connections.
I'd like to add the births to it, because it's my mom
Sure.
and my dad, both sides. I wouldn't do this
Certainly.
one.
Okay, great, thank you, Charlie, okay. So Jackie met her husband at Rocky Point, they got married here. Then he went to dental school, and they had a practice for a while in Utica, and then he and his partner decided to move out to Arizona. So she probably did that even before her kids. They had 4 kids in the 80s, then they moved out, and tragically one of her daughters, the middle daughter, the one who never married, died in 2021. And she is still in Arizona. I did have a couple of conversations with her, and her husband is not doing well. He is still alive, but she's, as everybody, I guess, has had some losses in her life. And here's Jean Bird sitting right over here. So Jean was not born here. Jean was born in Smithtown, Long Island. And she went to college at Potsdam and met her husband, Don Bird, who was at Clarkson. Louder, thank you. I have one person who has a hard time hearing. So Jean met her husband, Don. And many of you went to high school with Don, I believe, or many of you know of someone who went to high school with Don. And I've been told that he was not the valedictorian, but he was the salutatorian because he had a kidney problem from the beginning, right, Jean? Not a healthy guy, really.
Well, he was healthy, he had one good one.
Oh, he had a good one. So now, his family was from Inlet, and they had the flying interest, and they taught his dad, got him involved with the passion for flying. He, as you all know, began Bird's seaplane service. And Jean, again, I'm going to repeat a little bit, Jean taught at the Inlet School. She, I think, maybe came into her own there. I mean, she was a wonderful teacher, very, very loved, and I think she was fed by it. I had written down somewhere that she didn't need the money. So, I know whoever doesn't need the money, but really, yeah, I know, right? So,
That's okay, Jean, they didn't pay us.
they didn't pay, so it was a perfect job for her. But,
At least I could walk to school.
So, Jean and Don bought 6 pieces of property around the area, and they lived across the street from where her current house is now, which many of you may know. It's close to Zone 3, which she owns and rents. And so they also began a dream house, and many of you have had the good luck to be in it or see it. It's a beautiful home, and tragically Don died 9 years after they got into the home, and I believe that was 2004, so he's been gone 20 years. So here's Resilient Jean, who we love. One of her sons are Doug and Dan, and she just had an amazing wedding there with a granddaughter who brought in friends from all over the world. And this is, you said here, Jean, it's interesting, I love to bring people to my house to share the beauty of our surrounding. And at the time she said to me, I love to bring people from all over, but you really did have people from all over. She said something else interesting. I want to pause here because a number of people said to me, you're going to go in and you're going to find out how feminist those women were and how they could do it on their own, which is totally 100% false. And Jean gave me a beautiful quote about that. And she said, men could never do it on their own, and women could never do it on their own. And Inlet is a beautiful example of partnerships between men and women and how we work together. And I heard that in Old Forge when I started interviewing then. And they said, stop with this women, men. That's not how we look at it. We look at it as partnerships because we cannot survive without each other. And I think that that's a beautiful tribute. And you're surviving on people's memories as well. Men and women, as Jean, in towns like Inlet, Men couldn't do it alone. Men and women rely on each other. And then she ended by saying, wherever I am, I want to make a difference. And in 20 years, all the things that she's done since Don left, she's in many, many different organizations and really making a difference in our community. This is the picture, whoops, sorry.
No.
I like this. I'm sorry. You're darling. I mean, really? The only reason it's so close up is I couldn't get my computer to work well. But tough. So Reggie was not born in Inlet. Hey, what else is new? She was born in Frankfurt, New York, and she came to Inlet because she had relatives that have places here, but she came to work. And this is her quote: I came up to Inlet for one fun summer and spent the rest of my life here. And that's just so true of Reggie, the Reggie we all know and love. She met and married Paul Chambers, and they had Vicki and Paul John as children. She was very good at explaining how difficult it is to own a business. You all may remember that they lived above Paul's gas station for 15 years, from 74 to 89 when they got bought property wisely, out on Uncas Road and built themselves a beautiful home. I was reading the obituary of Paul's mother, and his mother said, "You're not going to catch me pumping gas. You are going to catch Reggie pumping gas." And she said, "We never closed." And for any of you remembering back when your car broke down and it was a Saturday morning, and you had to be at work on Monday, you knew you could go to Paul and Reggie and your car would be fixed. And she said, the business was great, but business takes such a toll on your family. I'm sure any of you here, Adele, there's many nights you're not home getting dinner for your family. I'm sure all the events that take you out, driving a bus, my God, Barb, you're all over the place every hour. It's not 9 to 5. A business is your life. And this is what built Inlet. Families and business. And the businesses today, a lot of them new, young ones coming in, are they different? Yeah. Are they the same? Yeah, because you are wedded to the business. I think one of the things Reggie said that was so insightful is when you move out of town, you've got a little bit of breathing space because you're not right in the center of town and people can knock on the door. As you know, she taught first at Inlet, then she didn't need the money, but she taught there anyway. So but South Louis paid a little more, even though it was 45-minute drive every morning. It was a long, long drive. But the school board did not say, Reggie, we're going to pay you what South Louis will pay you. They said, we're going to pay you what we used to pay you. So today, you've got to stop, if you haven't, and look at the Historical Society, the Inlet Historical Society. Reggie and Paul and many of the rest of you have done a beautiful job at just making it a beautiful place and celebrating all the stuff that I'm talking about today. So go back to the fun thing. What do you miss the most about Inlet?
Oh dear.
The pylon! For those of you who don't, how many know what the pylon is? That well, what was it, Reggie?
It was a good bar.
A good bar. She says it with a smile, but she says that Inlet is still fun, even without the pylon. So I had to hit the smile. I told you I'd circle back, and I'm circling back to Margie O'Hara. So Margie was not born in Inlet. Margie was born in Vermont, where her family was, what did your dad do? Something, he made apple crates.
He built
apple crates
right.
in Vermont.
To try to make a living.
Try to make a living. A friend of his was, I hope I get this right, opening a hardware store in Inlet.
Yeah, Walt Leaden from Boonville.
In Boonville, right. Hired her dad. He's a great worker, a great manager. He comes to Inlet. they have, at that point, Margie and Don. Don is 7 years younger, was Don,
Four.
she lost Don
4 years younger.
at age 61 tragically. So they come to Inlet to live, to make a living. Hodell's hardware store, some of you may remember that. So Margie loved being a teenager in Inlet. She came here as a sophomore in high school. Imagine a girl today going into a high school as a sophomore. You know how you'd be treated. Well, they loved Margie and Margie loved them. Again, she was one of the people that was a cheerleader and in the chorus. Were you cheerleading in the
No, I
chorus?
wasn't
You weren't a
a cheerleader.
cheerleader, I know.
No,
Okay,
I
but,
wasn't.
sorry. Inlet was a wonderful place to spend my teen years. A party town, a fun and safe home where neighbors watched out for you. Another point that we all need to remember about Inlet, that everyone knew who you were out on the street, and it felt safe. So she, both Margie and Sue Beck met a guy at the Old Forge High School called Aaron Norton. Aaron Norton was a high school counselor. And he probably met a lot of you. But he met Sue and he met Margie and he said, you guys don't have any money, but we're going to college. Margie went to Ithaca on a scholarship. Sue went to Syracuse on a scholarship, both within a couple of years of each other. This man saw the potential in kids, especially girls, who, you know, you might not have thought about that. It was 1959,
58.
58. And this was a tribute to Old Forge, a tribute to Inlet, saying these girls are from Inlet. They've got something special. They've got something we want to pull out. And you know what? They're gonna feed their communities wherever they go. Sue stayed. Sue got a master's. Margie got a master's as well. No, you didn't.
No, I
So Margie leaves Inlet. She goes to Chittenango. Another small town, a little bigger than us. And she teaches English, high school English, for 35 years. Then she's ready for life too. I don't mean TOO, she's ready for life TWO. So, tragically, her brother Don died, and he was 61, so it was 2005, Margie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she comes back, and she's at his funeral, and she bumps into this old guy, Bruce O'Hara. Old guy, old friend, Bruce O'Hara. Moving us right back to the pioneers, because Bruce's grandfather, as I said at the beginning, Charlie O'Hara, owned the Arrowhead. And he did not remain here. His son, Bruce's, I'm going to read this because I'm not extremely familiar with it. So Bruce's father, Alton O'Hara, said to his dad, I'm not staying in Inlet. I'm going to Syracuse. I'm going to college. I'm going to law school. I'm raising my family in Syracuse. Okay. But Bruce's grandfather, Alton's father, gives land to all three. Greg O'Hara, remember Greg and Carolyn?
Yeah.
Greg and Bruce and third brother, remind me?
Sean.
So those three boys get 3 acres, is it? Do you mind me saying this? Anyway, they each get an inheritance. So Bruce had been wanting to build his dream home. Here comes Margie. She's been looking for a dream husband. So here they are. They get married, and yeah, so she starts life too.
That wasn't when I.
It wasn't like that?
That wasn't when I first met him.
No, I know, but I didn't, can I tell that story? Sure. Oh, yes.
We were engaged in 1961.
They were engaged, and she thought most of you did not know that. In 1961, they were engaged. So this was not a new thing.
No.
This was, this was an old thing, Bruce. It was, you were an old thing, not an old thing. So I think it's a lovely story. And when she first told me, I really didn't think I was hearing it right, so. So those are our families. And I would like very much to continue all of them. I want to have way more on the Blakemans for sure, because I have a lot but not enough. And always more on the Murdochs, and anyone else that's willing to talk with me for the rest of this summer and all year. I'm here a lot. So I'm going to close this off with just, I think really you would all agree. The family legacy, your spirit of resilience, highs and lows. Open to new places is not, that's kind of nothing, that wasn't what I was looking for. But people are always willing to leave from the winter if they have to, come back, grab those beauty of the nature of the tree. Remember, as Brenda said, remember you want to come back. You just want to come back. Work hard. Really? Such hard work, everybody, such hard work. And guys, I mean, I know you worked hard too. I mean, and you relied on your wives, but you all relied on each other. Next summer, I'll do the men. Goodwill. I mean, there really is such goodwill, and I hope it really continues. And if you bump into it when it's not goodwill, if you're parking in the wrong place or something, remember who we are. We're goodwill. We're goodwill, okay? Community goes without saying. And all these universal experiences, they are nurtured by a special time. And I will take questions or comments if anyone has any, or we are finished. I'm going to put that photo up again of the Inlet school reunion if anyone wants to go find themselves in it. There we go. Thank you all.